All right, guys, we're going to walk through a couple examples here together. Before we start, just know that there are a lot of different ways that you can solve these problems. I'm just showing you the way that I would do it. So first of all, we have our exponent here in example 1, and we would like to distribute that to both things that are inside here. So if I distribute that to the r, we get r squared on top. When we distribute it to the bottom, we get g to the negative 10th. Because remember, we are multiplying those exponents there. And then having a negative exponent is never a good thing, so we need to make it positive. And we know that when we move things to the bottom of a fraction, they become positive exponents. Well, same goes if you move from the bottom to the top. Basically, anytime you move something, that exponent is now going to be positive. So let's go ahead and move that g to the negative 10th to the top. So we end up with r squared on top. And when we move that g to the negative 10th to the top, it becomes positive. Okay, so that was our answer for that one. Example number 2. I see that we have an exponent outside of these parentheses. So first thing that I would do is distribute that 2 to both of our terms inside here. So that's going to give me 7 squared and b to the negative 6, because again, we are multiplying those exponents. And then we still have outside here this b to the 5th and this regular b. Now I see that I have a lot of different b's here, so we're going to go ahead and add all of the exponents on my b's in order to combine them. So negative 6 plus 5 would be negative 1. And then when we add this b here, anytime there's no exponent, it's an invisible 1. So negative 1 plus 1, those actually all are going to go ahead and become b to the 0 power, which goes away because that's just a regular number 1. Anything to the 0 power is 1. So the only thing that we're left with really is the 7 squared. So the answer for this one is going to be 49. Okay, let's try this next one. Again, I see some exponents out here. The first thing I usually always do is distribute, just to go ahead and simplify it a little bit. So make sure we distribute it to everything that is in my parentheses. So we have 3 squared, x to the, we're multiplying, so that would be negative 4, and y to the 2nd. Times, when I distribute my 4 to that exponent, I get 2 to the 4th, x to the 4th, and y to the negative 12th. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and combine some of our terms. My x's, remember we add the exponent, so negative 4 plus 4, looks like those cancel out. And for my y's, we have y squared and y to the negative 12th. So when I add those together, I get y to the negative 10th. And then I'm going to go ahead and simplify my exponents that are on my numbers. So I know that 3 squared is 9, and 2 to the 4th, I believe, is 16. So then when we combine those together here, we're going to multiply. So we're going to do 9 times 16, which is 144. Now remember, we're multiplying because there's a multiplication sign between here. And these are like big numbers. These are our bases, not exponents, so we don't add them. Okay, so now I see I have a negative exponent, so my thing is not simplified all the way. So we have to move this y to the negative 10th to the bottom of a fraction. Now, the 144, that has a positive exponent, right? There's no negative exponent on that one, so it needs to stay on top. And only the y to the 10th moves to the bottom to become positive. So there is my answer for this one. Okay, let's try the next two. All right, so when I look in here, anytime I have some stuff to combine on the inside of parentheses, I usually do that before I distribute. But if I look, there's a 0 exponent on this parenthesis, which means when I distribute it to everything in here, all of these exponents are going to become 0, and anything to the 0 power is just a 1. So I know that I can actually cross this whole thing out because it all has that 0 exponent. So I'm left with 1 over 2 h to the negative 3, j to the negative 4, and k to the negative 2. So now let's simplify it. Again, we've got these negative exponents that we don't like. So those things need to move to the top to become positive. Now our 2 has no exponent, so there's an invisible 1 on that 2. So we're going to leave him on the bottom because he does not have a negative exponent. So let's go ahead and just move the h, j, and k to the top. So it's going to be h to the 3rd, j to the 4th, and k to the 2nd, all over 2. And I know my expression here is simplified because all of my exponents are going to be positive and I only have 1 of each letter. Okay, that's a good way to check and make sure you're all the way simplified. All right, let's try this one. I see parentheses, but there's nothing to combine in my parentheses. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute that -4. But before I do that, see this q to the 0? Anytime I have a 0 exponent, I just cross that out because it becomes the 1 and we don't really care about it anymore. So let's go ahead and distribute that -4. Distribute it to the 2, the p, and the m. So I get 2 to the -4th, p to the -4th, m to the, that's going to become a +4, times 2m to the -1, p to the 3rd, all over 2pq squared. Okay, next thing I'm going to combine my terms on top. So I see that I have 2 2's as bases. And remember, the exponent on something without an exponent is a 1. So I can go ahead and add the exponents of my 2's. So that's going to be 2 to the -3. And for my p's, I have a -4 plus 3. That's going to be a -1. So p to the -1. And my m's become a +3. And then the bottom is still 2pq squared. All right, now let's go ahead and make all of our exponents positive. So this is the part where you could do this a lot of different ways. You could go ahead and subtract your exponents on these like terms right away, or the way that I like to do it is move them and then add my exponents. So my 2 to the -3rd needs to move to the bottom. So it's going to be 2 to the +3rd. My p to the -1 needs to move to the bottom. It's going to be p to the +1. My m cubed is going to stay on top. So I'm just going to do each thing individually. My 2 stays on the bottom, p stays on the bottom, and q squared all stay on the bottom. Now I can go ahead and add my exponents on terms that are on the same side of my fraction. So nothing to combine up top here, so I'm going to do m cubed. And then 2 to the 3rd and 2 to the 1 is going to be 2 to the 4th. My p's are going to be p squared when I add those 2 1's there. And then my q squared is going to stay right there. Nothing to add with that one. And then last thing is we just want to simplify this. We can plug 2 to the 4th into our calculator. I believe that's going to give us a 16. So we get m cubed over 16p squared q squared. And I know I'm done because every letter is only written one time and all of my exponents are positive. Lovely.